Welcome to Crime Story with Camila. Today we talked about the chilling story of the forbidden love that turned fatal. The shocking story of Ella and her mother. Stay tuned as we delve in. In the quiet town of Willow Creek, where the streets are lined with picket fences and neighbors exchange polite smiles, a harrowing crime would shatter the illusion of safety. A bond that should have been unbreakable, a mother and her daughter, was destroyed in an unimaginable act of violence. Susan Carter was a devoted single mother, raising her only child, Ella, with unwavering love and strict principles. But love can sometimes feel suffocating, and rebellion can spiral into tragedy. This is the chilling story of Ella Carter, a young woman who crossed the ultimate line for love, and the man at the center of it all, Jake Rowland, whose influence would ignite a chain of events no one could have foreseen. A story of forbidden love, betrayal, and the irreversible consequences of blind obsession. To those who knew them, Susan and Ella Carter seemed like the perfect mother-daughter duo. Susan, a 42-year-old single mother, dedicated her life to giving her daughter the best. Her world revolved around Ella, a bright, ambitious 19-year-old with dreams of studying journalism. Susan was so proud of Ella. She always said Ella was her everything, her reason for pushing through all the challenges life threw at her. Their bond was enviable, built on years of shared struggles and triumphs. But Susan's love came with rules. A firm believer in discipline, she kept a watchful eye on Ella's friends, her studies, and her choices. Ella, while grateful for her mother's sacrifices, sometimes found the boundaries suffocating. It was around this time that Ella met Jake Rowland, a 22-year-old drifter with a troubled past. Jake had a reputation, a man with a criminal record and an easy charm that hid his darker tendencies. For Ella, Jake was the embodiment of freedom and rebellion. For Susan, he was a walking red flag. Ella was drawn to Jake's bad boy persona, the thrill of stepping outside the carefully constructed world her mother had built for her. What started as an innocent infatuation soon became an all-consuming love affair. Susan looking concerned as she notices Ella sneaking back into the house late at night. A tense mother-daughter conversation ensues. Susan, her mother, told Ella, "Ella, I don't want to hear about you seeing that boy again. He's no good for you." Ella responded to her mother, "Mother, you don't know him, Mom. He's not what you think." Susan's protective instincts were on high alert, but Ella saw her mother's concern as interference in her life. What neither of them could predict was how this rift would grow into something far darker. The pressure had been building for weeks. Susan's efforts to shield her daughter from Jake had only driven Ella closer to him. What had once been a strong bond between mother and daughter had become a battlefield of heated arguments and slammed doors. Earlier that day, Susan confronts Ella after finding a hidden phone bill showing repeated late-night calls to Jake. Susan, angrily holding the bill, told her daughter, "Ella, I told you he's no good for you. Look at this. Are you sneaking behind my back?" Ella, shouting back at her mother, "You don't control me, Mom. I love him, and you can't stop me from being with him." That night, the arguments reached a boiling point. Susan discovered Ella's plan to run away with Jake. Hidden under Ella's bed was a packed bag and a bus ticket to the city. Susan storms into Ella's room, holding up the bus ticket. Susan, furious, told Ella, "What is this? You were going to leave? With him? Do you even know what kind of life you're running toward?" Ella, tearfully responding to her mother, "At least he loves me for who I am. You don't trust me, and you never will." Susan, firmly, told her daughter Ella, "I won't let you ruin your life for some criminal. You're not going anywhere." Ella, her face twisted in anger and frustration. She storms out of the room, heading toward the kitchen. Reaching there, she grabs a knife from the counter, her hands trembling. In a moment of blind rage, Ella made a decision that would change her life forever. Consumed by anger, frustration, and a misguided sense of rebellion, she confronted her mother one last time. Susan follows Ella into the kitchen, her voice softer now, but firm. Susan pleading with her daughter, "Ella, please, I'm trying to protect you. I only want what's best for you." Ella, clutching the knife tightly, turns to face her mother. Tears stream down her face as her voice cracks. Ella screaming, "You don't care about what's best for me. You just want to control me." By the time Ella realized what she had done, it was too late. The woman who had given her everything now lay lifeless on the kitchen floor. Ella drops the knife, her hands covered in blood. She backs away, horrified, before collapsing to her knees, sobbing uncontrollably. Overwhelmed with fear and regret, Ella did the unthinkable. She called Jake for help. Jake arriving at the house, pulling Ella into a frantic embrace. He surveys the scene coldly, his mind already calculating. Jake, whispering to Ella, "Listen to me. We'll make this look like a break-in. You just need to trust me." In that moment, Ella made a second tragic mistake. She let Jake take control of the situation. What followed would seal her fate forever. The once cozy Carter home had become the scene of an unthinkable tragedy. Susan Carter's life was taken in a moment of rage. And now, the truth behind her death would begin to unravel. Under Jake's influence, Ella spun a story of a violent home invasion. She claimed an unknown intruder had broken into the house, attacked Susan, and fled into the night. But the investigators quickly noticed inconsistencies in her account. Something doesn't add up here. If this was a break-in, where's the sign of forced entry? And why does the blood trail lead directly to the kitchen where the knife was found? Police interview room. Ella is sitting across from two detectives, visibly nervous. Her story falters under questioning. Detective calmly spoke to Ella. "Ella, we just want the truth. Your mother didn't deserve what happened to her. Help us understand." Ella, stammering, responded to the detective. "It wasn't me. I didn't." Jake said. Jake being questioned in a separate room. He denies involvement and shifts the blame entirely to Ella. Jake, smirking slightly, told the detective, "I tried to help her. She called me after it happened. She said she didn't mean to do it. I came over to calm her down." Jake's cold demeanor and Ella's mounting guilt led investigators to dig deeper. Text messages between the two painted a grim picture of manipulation and codependency. Detective scrolling through Ella's phone, reading messages from Jake. "She'll never let you go. You have to do something, and we're in this together no matter what." The messages revealed Jake's role in fueling Ella's anger and frustration, pushing her to the breaking point. But in the eyes of the law, it was Ella who wielded the knife, and she alone would face the consequences. This was not a random act of violence. This was the result of a toxic relationship and a young woman's misguided rebellion against the one person who truly loved her. Ella sobbing, "I didn't mean for this to happen. I just wanted her to understand. I loved her, but she wouldn't let me live my life." In the end, Ella was convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to 25 years in prison. Jake, though seen as a manipulative influence, faced no charges, as there was insufficient evidence to prove his direct involvement in the crime. While Ella paid the ultimate price for her actions, Jake walked free, leaving a trail of destruction in his wake. For the town of Willow Creek, the tragedy served as a stark reminder of how love, when mixed with manipulation and rebellion, can spiral into devastating consequences. 2 lives were lost that night, one to death, the other to regret. And in the end, the question remains, could this tragedy have been prevented if love and understanding had prevailed over control and defiance? In the end, a series of choices, fueled by defiance, manipulation, and miscommunication, tore apart what was once a loving family. Ella Carter, now serving a 25-year sentence, reflects daily on the moment that changed everything, a single act that she cannot take back. Ella said, "I thought I was fighting for freedom, for love, but I see now that I let anger and someone else's influence take control of me. If I could trade places with my mom, I would. She didn't deserve this." For Susan, her life ended far too soon, a victim of her own unwavering devotion to her daughter. And for Jake Rowland, the man at the center of the tragedy, the question of accountability lingers. While he walked away without legal consequences, the stain of his actions remains. Neighbors said about Ella, "Ella was a good kid. She just got mixed up with the wrong person." It's heartbreaking because Susan did everything she could to give her a good life. Family friend also added, "This could have been avoided if someone had intervened sooner." It's a reminder that we need to listen to each other and seek help before things spiral out of control. The story of Susan and Ella Carter is one of love, rebellion, and devastating consequences. It's a reminder of the importance of communication, understanding, and recognizing the signs of toxic relationships before they escalate. If you or someone you know is struggling, remember, there is always help available, and it's never too late to reach out.
Thanks for watching. For more interesting videos, please subscribe.